More than 60% of the top 10 gets replaced this week with new titles. We're going to go through them all, coming right up. Hello everybody, Justus R. Stone here, and on this channel I cover everything light novels, reviews, news, countdowns like this one of the most popular titles in Japan, so if you love light novels, you should subscribe. In this video, I'm covering the top 10 best-selling light novels for the past week, that's June 18th to the 24th of 2018 in Japan. There's been a big shift in the list this week. 7 new titles on it, only 3 survive from last week, so let's just get right into it. At number 10, with 6,480 copies sold, a title that's been on the list for a couple of weeks now, volume number 20 of Shin'yaku Toaru Majutsu, or A Certain Magical Index New Testament. This, of course, the sequel series to A Certain Magical Index, which we do have in English from Yen on. No word on this series, but like I've said for a bunch of times by now, we're not going to hear about a license for this one until Magical Index is over, but I would be willing to put money that we will get this series announced probably when there's like maybe 3 volumes left of Magical Index. That's my guess, so maybe within the next year. At number 9, with 6,696 copies sold, Hoshin Engi, Shirube naki michi e, or Hoshi Engi, To the Path with No Guide. This is actually a novel adaptation of the Hoshin Engi manga. The original manga ran from 1996 to 2000 and was released in English by Viz, a 26 episode anime based on the series aired back in 1999 and was released in English by ADV Films and then later by another company that I forget already, but it was released under the name Soul Hunter. And then actually there's just been a new anime that just aired in January and was streaming on Crunchyroll. And it looks like there's actually a bit of a revival of the manga as well. So Hoshin Engi is an old manga based on the Chinese story Investiture of the Gods. The story is set in legendary China. A beautiful female fox spirit named Daki is controlling the emperor Chuo and the ruling Ing dynasty, and is using her power over him to do evil in the nation. An immortal in training named Taikobo is chosen by the great immortal sages for the Hoshin project, to seal away or destroy the evil demons that infest the world. In the course of his adventures, Taikobo gathers other powerful companions and sets out to seal away the demons and eventually destroy the fox spirit Daki. Now, I'm not 100% certain that this novelization is going to be a retelling of the entire series, or if it's only covering parts. That I wasn't 100% sure on. All I can tell you for certain, though, is that it is a novelization, sort of, I guess, restirring. There seems to be a little bit of this going on in Japan right now, this sort of reviving properties that ended in the 90s or the very, very early 2000s. Well, I mean, for instance, now it's not over, but you go back to Boogie Pop, which premiered in the late 90s. That's getting a brand new anime. This has been going on like the last year or so, it seems, in particular. It's probably further back even than that, but yeah, it really seems like anime or manga properties that are over a decade old are starting to get some more love and getting reinvigorated through anime. I don't know if that is sort of saying something about the anime industry. I'm kind of hoping it isn't going the way of Hollywood and regurgitating ideas every 5 to 10 years, but I guess time will tell. At number 8, with 6,982 copies sold, Hai to Gensou no Grimgar, volume number 13. So volume number 13 of Grimgar of Fantasy and Ash. This one licensed for English by J-Novel Club And Seven Seas, this is one of the titles that Seven Seas has picked up of J-Novels to release in print format. Actually, I just did the titles releasing in July, and Volume 7 is coming out in print in July. The manga is also licensed, but it's licensed by Yen Press, so kind of 3 companies involved in Grimgar of Fantasy and Ash. Not to mention there's a 12-episode anime that you can stream on Crunchyroll, so there you go. This one is, I won't read you just the pure synopsis. Basically, this one, I talk about it a lot, is the story of a group of individuals who wake up in this dark room and realize that they have no memory of their former lives except for their name. And they're basically dragged out of this room and told that they're in a new world and they have a choice. They can become warriors, basically become of the Legion, part of the Legion, and defend humanity against monsters and demons and the whole 9 yards. Or they can just kind of walk off by themselves and fend for themselves. Thank you very much. You get no pay, no nothing. Have a good time trying to survive in this world. And it's a very sort of grittier take on the isekai type thing where you have characters that actually die. The battles, certainly initially, like I read the first volume, the battles are messy and sloppy because the characters don't know what they're doing. It's not like they just magically all of a sudden are great fighters. It really does take more of a harder and slightly more realistic look at what would happen if you awoke in this situation and you weren't already a warrior. You weren't already powerful and strong, and taking a look at the struggles that you would have, and yes, the reality that people that you are close to or become close to may die. It's a very interesting series in that way. A much more emotionally packed series than a lot of the more sort of superpower OP isekais that we've had released in English. At number 7, with 7,054 copies sold, volume number 7 of Genjitsushugi yuusha no oukoku saikenki. I really should be able to say that a lot better because it's been on the list before, and that is How a Realist Hero Rebuilt the Kingdom. This one released in English by J-Novel Club. In fact, funny enough, volume number 7, you can actually read the first part of volume number 7 on J-Novel Club's website right now. This just came out in Japan, and that's how fast J-Novel is getting to turning these puppies around. So this one's licensed by J-Novel. As I said, volume 6, you can buy volumes 1 to 6 complete, and volume 7, they are already starting to release in installments through their website, which probably means it'll be released completely in a month and a half, maybe 2 months. This one is about a character who is, it's an isekai, obviously, about a character who is summoned to another world, and they have sort of 2 options. They can either, it's a small kingdom that's fallen on hard times, and there are several kingdoms in this world, and one of them is basically holding the line against these demon forces. And that kingdom has basically said, look, either you've got to pay us so that we can get more resources, or you need to use these summoning spells, summon some heroes, and send them to us to help fight. Well, this kingdom summons a hero because they figure they don't have the money to pay, and they end up actually being so impressed with this hero, Soma, that the king abdicates his throne and hands it over to Soma to try and rebuild the kingdom. This one, particularly when it first released, it's still fairly unique, but when it was first released, it was one of the very few isekais that focused a lot more on kingdom building and taking a look at government and sort of the way that people don't like to lose their positions, because of course Soma starts cleaning house and there's civil conflict and people sort of push against his reforms even though they seem to make sense. Like it's one of those few ones that really kind of looked more at like the civil engineering side of trying to put together a kingdom and trying to rebuild, literally that's the title, rebuild a kingdom. Really good series. I really liked it. One of those ones that I've got to get back to because I did fall a little bit behind, but man, it keeps getting so much praise, and this one has been picked up by Seven Seas. It is going to get a print release. I think the first volume, I want to say, is coming out in like September. So you still have a couple months if you've been waiting for print, but it is on the way. At number 6, with 7,781 copies sold, one of the 3 titles that survives from last week, volume number 7 of Sword Art Online Alternative Gun Gale Online. This one, of course, the tale of Len, who is a avatar of a girl named Karen, who in the real world is very conscious of the fact that she is tall. And so in the game, she is like a little tiny girl that just is as happy as can be because she's small and cute and runs around in a pink jumpsuit with a pink P90. And yeah, it's actually, you know what, the anime for this one is just ending, and it's been really funny actually to read the comments online about a lot of people talking how they feel this one is so much better than the actual Sword Art Online, like the main series. This one is not written by Reiki Kawahara. It's actually written by the author of Kino's Journey. So it's a little bit of a different take on things. This one has been licensed. Like I said, you can watch the anime. It's streamed on Crunchyroll, but the novels have been licensed by Yen On. They've released volume number 1 actually just this past week. I got a copy, hoping to read it within the next week or so. And we also have the manga, and it's been licensed by Yen Press. At number 5, with 8,258 copies sold, Mirai no Mirai, or Mirai of the Future. Now, this is actually a novelization of an upcoming anime film. The film is set to release in Japan on July 20th. It's the same director as The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, Summer Wars, Wolf Children, and more recently, The Boy and the Beast. Some titles that have quite a bit of critical acclaim behind them. This one is about a young boy named Kun, a spoiled 4-year-old boy who comes across a magical garden where he meets his future sister, Mirai, who is now a young woman and has traveled back in time to see him. Their adventures together help Kun cope with learning how to live with a baby sibling. So this one, like I said, it is a film adaptation. No word on any license, but given that Yen has picked up quite a few film adaptations lately, of course they did Your Name. I mean, that was kind of a no-brainer given how popular Your Name was. But they're releasing Fireworks. What is it? Fireworks, Are They Round from the Bottom or something? Anyway, Fireworks is probably what everybody will just call it. They're releasing that one as well. So these really sort of big tentpole kind of anime films that are getting a lot of notice and critical acclaim or have directors attached to them who, yeah, have done big projects in the past. Wouldn't surprise me if we see this one get licensed by Yen. At number 4, with 9,786 copies sold, Isekai wa Smartphone to Tomo ni, also known as In Another World with My Smartphone. So volume number 13 of this one at number 4. We do have this licensed for English release by J-Novel Club. They are releasing volume, I believe I just said it was like volume 9 is coming out in July. There is a 12-episode anime which streamed on Crunchyroll and covered, I believe, volumes 1 to 3 of the light novel series. And we're all kind of waiting to see what happens because there was recently an article, I think it was in the Japan Times, but there was an article about light novels, and it had a picture of Sam from J-Novel Club, the president and owner of J-Novel Club, and he was posed, and he had a couple of copies of In Another World with My Smartphone, and they were in English and print editions. So everybody's buzzing, saying that this is going to get announced probably at Anime Expo, that we'll have print editions of In Another World with My Smartphone. But well, we'll just have to see. This one, of course, it involves a teenage boy who dies through an accident by God, and God says, "Hey, I'll let you go to another world, and you can take anything with you." And he chooses to take his smartphone. Pretty good choice, seeing as how the smartphone actually allows him to access knowledge from our world. And so he starts looking up how to build things and, you know, cook certain meals and stuff like that. that the world he's been transported to doesn't have. And so he basically starts introducing all of this new technology and foods and everything else. And it's a very irreverent kind of fun, don't take it too seriously series. The author just runs rampant. Like, I mean, they've done everything. Like, you know, it is like a kitchen sink series. I mean, there was a story where he creates a bike, the first bike. There's the story where he creates ice cream. And they've gone all the way to, like, mecha robots. I mean, yeah, it's just one of those things that you kind of have to just go along for the ride and enjoy and not take too seriously. But you know what? I did really enjoy the first 2 volumes. It's one of those series that I keep saying to myself I'd like to read some more of. At least read the 3rd volume so I could even then watch the anime without any spoilers. At number 3, with 12,486 copies sold, Shin Tenshi Muyo Ryooki Gaiden, Tenshi Muyo GXP, volume number 17. This one, of course, is a sort of alt Tenshi Muyo story that's been going on, obviously, for 17 volumes. Seina Yamada may just be the unluckiest guy in the world. As Tenshi Masaki's classmate, this walking time bomb seems to spread destruction and bad fortune wherever he goes. But when a surprise encounter with a beautiful woman leaves him with lipstick on his face and a Galaxy Police pamphlet, it seems his luck is about to turn around. Now he has become a member of the GP Academy and is about to face the challenges of squaring off against space pirates, adapting to a new advanced society, and sneaking out after curfew with his friends. Now, there are numerous anime series of Tenshi Muyo, and like, I never really got into it, I have to be honest, and I mean, some of these go back a number of years, but as I recall, they have a lot of sort of alt retellings of stories and alt reality versions, and some tie into each other but some don't. I believe this one it started off as a novelization of one of those sort of spin-offs, and then it's just kind of grown into its own thing over the years and just sort of gone far, far beyond what the anime was. Now, interestingly enough, the anime were at one point available in English. I'm going to have to say that probably the companies that initially had them have long gone under, but I don't know if they've been reissued since then. If you have any idea of the whole Tenshi universe and where it's at right now, let me know. Although, I will say that 7 Seas has just released the first volume of the true Tenshi Muyo light novels. I believe there's 3 volumes in total in that one, and if I recall, it's like either direct sequels, or I believe there's like a mix of like sequels, side stories, or whatever, to the Tenshi Muyo, the main series that was like the very first Tenshi Muyo series that came out. So Tenshi Muyo, apparently we're starting to get a bit of a resurgence in the English market through 7 Seas. I kind of don't think the whole GXP thing is going to fly with English audiences. I wouldn't expect to see this series get picked up. But you never know, because until last year, I don't think anybody ever thought true Tenshi Muyo was going to get licensed either. So anything seems to be possible nowadays. At number 2, with 15,329 copies sold, Kishibe Rohan wa Sakabanai, which is a light novel spin-off of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, that series. These ones, they seem to focus on character Kishibe Rohan, though there's stories written by various Japanese authors, with original concepts by Hirohiko Araki, and they all revolve around the adventures of Rohan Kishibe. Now, I'm not into JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, I'm sorry. I know it seems to be one of those series that people either absolutely are fanatically in love with, or they really have absolutely nothing to do with or hate. Maybe I'm wrong on that. That's just kind of the general impressions I get from my limited exposure to anime fandom online. So I'm really not very familiar with this at all. I guess there's actually a side light novel series called Thus Spoke Kishibe Rohan. So these are actually seem to be like a spin-off of a spin-off, if that makes any sense at all. I'm kind of thinking that these ones, it sounds like these ones are compiled volumes of short stories that have been published in other magazines and stuff. But again, I'm kind of going off a little bit of wikis, Google Translates and stuff like that. So yeah, if you know more, feel free to leave it in the comments down below. Finally, at number 1 with 16,932 copies sold, it's Yoi Monogatari, the latest in the Monogatari series. This was number 1 last week. It holds on again with a fairly commanding lead. This one, of course, the ongoing Monogatari series with Araragi, who is a boy that was a vampire, is now not exactly a vampire, but not exactly human, and all of the weird aberrations that appear around him. We are getting this one released in English by Vertical. I actually just reviewed Kabuki Monogatari, and it was actually one of my favorites in the series so far. Just this past week, Hana Monogatari was released by Vertical in English, and I supposedly have a copy on the way, so I'm looking forward to reading that soon. And then, of course, we did have the anime. Last time I checked, it was still available on Crunchyroll. But this one, of course, you have to look it up because they don't necessarily go by volume numbers. Each sort of book has its own title. So Bake Monogatari, Kabuki Monogatari, Nisei Monogatari, and on and on. So if you want to make sure you're watching things in the right order, you're just going to have to look up the names and make sure that you're getting it in the right order. I know that it's had almost 100 episodes. I think it was, the last I counted, I think it was like 92 or 93 episodes long, the series. So yes, so you can get Monogatari. Funny enough, they just announced that they're going to be doing an anime adaptation, like not an anime adaptation, what am I saying? A manga adaptation of this series. But it hasn't happened yet. It's in the works. It will be coming out in Japan. I would not be surprised to see that one licensed in English soon. Yeah, I'd say soon after it releases in Japan. I think we'll get it. This week, I want to say a special thanks to Patrick Mbaihi, David Miller, FixLab.com, and Lights Leo for their support on Patreon and the support of all the rest of my patrons who help to make this channel possible, who've helped to make the Light Novel podcast possible. Your support means so much to me and just really does allow me to keep pushing forward and trying to do my best to make the content on this channel and in general just as great as I can. So thank you so much for your support. So those are your top 10 best-selling light novels in Japan for the week of June the 18th to the 24th of 2018. Will Monogatari hold on for a third week, or will it get bumped? It'll be interesting to see, and well, I'll be back here next week to do that. Thanks again to Zephyris for putting this together for me. You know, my anime list is still kaputski in a lot of ways, so it's been fantastic having some aid to make sure that this is as accurate a list as it can be. So very special thanks again. And thank you to all of you for joining in and watching these videos on a weekly basis. If you're brand new to the channel, though, you should subscribe. I don't only do this countdown every week, but I also do multiple reviews of light novels as well. Thank you so much for joining me in this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Till then, bye-bye for now.